Welcome to Chaos55t here, and welcome back to my story time. Well, it's a continuation from the previous video, My Narc Relative. This one is part 2. I will read you more off the list of what Richard has done. Richard likes to pressure people into doing it their way. The victims of this bit is actually my dad and my sister. They decided to go to Goodwill with, well, Richard and their boyfriend. Richard was feeling quite cranky and basically was spewing out of how they want to go home and sit on their couch. There was a couch in Goodwill and everyone offered, why not sit on the couch? Richard's like,
no, I don't want to sit there. I want to sit on the couch back at home.
Everyone was feeling massively uncomfortable, even the boyfriend of Richard. My sister was still playing in the kids' toy aisle and, well, my dad tried to calmly explain that she still wants to stay in the store for a bit. So then Richard goes,
fucking fine,
and storms out. They snatched their boyfriend's keys and waited in the car, threatening to just ditch my dad, my sister, and their boyfriend at that store. Mind you, if Richard would have drove out, they would have actually forced my dad, my sister, and their own boyfriend to walk all the way to their homes to get into their own vehicles to leave. So after a couple minutes of Richard threatening them via text, they eventually gave in and drove him home. All because Richard wanted to sit on a very specific couch back at home. Not only is that picky, but that was very manipulative, you know? This one's also on the list, and it still ties in with what happened earlier. Richard kept showing me articles about NPD via Facebook. Of course, we all know that Facebook gives us lying articles a lot of the time, maybe even virus-filled ones. So Richard showed me this very specific article and said,
see, that's your dad. That is your father.
I eventually read through the article now, and I can't really tell you what the article is in hopes to not get sued, but the information about NPD was completely wrong there. The comment section actually showed me real resources of what NPD is really about. Of course, I later found out that the person who made the article actually has NPD of their own and is in denial of it, but let's not talk about that. I showed Richard the actual articles with real resources that say what NPD is about, and you want to know what Richard said?
Feh, it's not from Facebook, so I don't trust it.
Anytime I show articles that indicate that Richard is in the wrong, of course every response will always be as such.
Is it from Facebook? It's not from Facebook. The only thing that's real is the articles on Facebook. I only trust things on Facebook.
But anytime I use a Facebook article to prove them wrong, of course, this is their response.
Oh my god, Facebook allowed this? Reported. Not all articles on Facebook is factual.
Like, what the fuck? Anytime you argue with them, they keep acting like any source that you have is always incorrect or false because they said so. But speaking of arguments and lies, did you know that they had a restraining order? My father, of course, was the one who filed the restraining order. In this restraining order, it does not allow both sides to, well, slander each other. And you want to know how many times a day I've heard Richard slander my own father? Daily. They always try to tell stories of how bad my father was in the past. But the thing is, my father already admitted what he has done wrong in the past and has already fixed it for a long time. So I called out Richard for two things. One, they were trying to get me to side against my own father to try to sue him, I guess. And the other reason was they violated the restraining order. Richard's only response is,
your father can't do shit. I already got nothing as it is, so he can't take anything away from me.
Not only was Richard violating the restraining order, but they don't even care what happens to them. They don't even care if they go to jail because a jail has a better roof over their head than there is in their current location. Not only that, but Richard has lied a lot, trying to make my dad painted as Satan itself. Of course, my father has debunked all those lies by showing evidence and proof that Richard was in the wrong. But that doesn't stop Richard from saying that all those evidence that my dad has given me were lies. Here's one more that talks about my father. Richard has always kept bragging about how they know of my father's social security number, which in of itself is 100% illegal, because that is just crying for identity theft. I don't even know how Richard got access to that information, but it made me more horrified to find out that when I got my social security number, that Richard tried to get access to that as well. Someone had access to my father's bank and went on a spending spree in Bed Bath & Beyond in Idaho. He also realized that someone made a credit card under his name, too, which made us more horrified to think, did my own fucking relative sold my father's social security number to someone in Idaho? Luckily, the bank offered to change up the numbers to make sure that it doesn't happen again, but that still makes me worry of the fact that maybe Richard could do it again. And after all this, you would think that Richard would admit of being a nasty person? No. Richard believes that they are the nicest person in the entire world and everyone is a gargoyle out to get them. Richard likes to talk shit behind people's backs, insult them, and maybe even belittle them just to look like the bigger person. And the thing is, they don't even censor people's names. They say the full fucking name to try to make sure that other people go after them. Oh yeah, no, they don't just use words either to prove that they're a nice person. My sister, me, and Richard decided to go to Walmart, and as we were trying to leave the parking lot, Richard almost got hit by a vehicle, and instead of, well, continue to drive, they decided to take sharp turns around the frickin' Walmart parking lot, it was busy by the way, and try to hunt down the person that nearly hit them. Just like every other sane person, the person that almost hit us stopped the vehicle, went out and said,
"The fuck is wrong with you? Why are you chasing me?"
Richard's response to that, as they rolled down their window, was saying,
I'm a nice person. I just wanted to thank you for not hitting me, and that's all I want.
That does not justify making sharp turns in a busy parking lot, running over a bunch of grocery carts, and hitting almost every pedestrian in your way. By what logic does saying you're a nice person excuse you from almost killing people? Like seriously, what universe does Richard live in? The cartoon era? I don't know what's going through that person's head when they're saying they're a nice person as an excuse to get away with abusing people or hurting people. This is barely scratching the surface still. I'm gonna pretty much, I hope I could finish it up in part 3. If not, then expect maybe a full-on series of how Richard fucked up everyone's lives in our family. This is Chaos55t, and don't be a Richard!